Graders, we're getting ready for our lesson for Monday on lesson 125, and we're going to do some review warm-up with adjectives and adverbs. Last week you did a little bit of practice on that on Thursday, and you took a quiz on book widgets, and we are going to revisit that and remind ourselves of the differences because you're going to need to practice that. You're going to need your whiteboards and markers, and you're going to need your English binders. So go grab those right now, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, I want you to open up your English binders to your jingles. It's very, very important that you memorize the adjective and adverb jingle because they give you hints on how to find them in the jingle. It's not a waste of time. Mrs. Huff really is having you memorize these for a purpose. So if you've got them open to your adjective and adverb jingle, I want you to read through it yourself, pause the video, read through it, both of them yourselves, and then come back. Alrighty, you're all warmed up, you've said your jingles, let's dissect each jingle. Let's go to the adjective jingle, and you look at your adjective jingle and tell me, what does an adjective describe? Or another way of saying that, what does an adjective modify? An adjective modifies a noun or a pronoun, and in 4th grade you're only going to deal with it describing a noun, not pronouns. You'll learn those later, but this chance still helps you in future years too. So an adjective describes a noun or a pronoun. An adjective asks what? What kind? Which one? How many? And this jingle even tells us how to find an adjective. To find an adjective, go, ask, and get. Where do you go? To the noun or the pronoun. When you get to the noun, what do you ask? You ask, what kind? Which one? How many? So you see the jingle really helps you find each adjective in your sentence. But in order to find your adjective, you have to first find your noun and then ask these questions about that noun. Now look at your adverb jingle. An adverb describes a verb, adjective, or another adverb. And in 4th grade, you're only going to deal with verbs and adverbs. In 5th grade and 6th grade and on up, you'll also learn about how adverbs describe adjectives and other adverbs. But in 4th grade, we're just going to look at how they describe a verb or how they modify a verb. It means the same thing. So an adverb modifies a verb, adjective, or another adverb. An adverb asks, I can hear Wyatt saying it, how, when, where, and again, our jingle tells us how to find an adverb. To find an adverb, go, ask, and get. Where do you go? To the verb, adjective, or another adverb. So in 4th grade, you're just going to go find the verb in the sentence. Then when you get to the verb, you're going to ask how, when, where. So now you know. If you want to find adjectives, you're going to be looking for a noun first and then asking these questions about the noun. That will point you to the adjective. If you're trying to find adverb, you're going to go to the verb and ask these questions to find your adverb. It will point you to it. Okay, I'm going to erase the board. You grab your whiteboards. All right, without looking back and close your jingles, I'd like for you to write on your whiteboard the answer to this side of the board. An adjective describes a what? Write down this. What does an adjective describe in 4th grade? Now that you've written this down, write down the 3 questions that the adjective answers. You need to have these memorized and separated from your adverbs. So after you've finished this side, let's go ahead and check it together. If you need more time, pause the video and finish writing your questions. All right, here we go. An adjective describes a noun or a pronoun, and in 4th grade is just nouns. An adjective answers or asks, what kind? What's the next one, Esther? Which one? Or, Willa? How many? Okay, now if you didn't get those, it's okay. Erase your board and try it again. See if you can match. Adjective describes a noun and answers these three questions: what kind, which one, how many. If you've gotten them right, you can go ahead. Erase your whiteboard and let's try adverbs. Fill in the blanks for this side of the board now. An adverb describes what? And then, what are the three questions that the adverb answers? Pause your video until you've finished. Alrighty, you should have your answers down. Let's check your work. An adverb describes a verb. And if you went ahead and wrote adjective or another adverb, that's fine too. That's 5th and 6th grade level, but for sure, for 4th grade, you have to have verb. And if you've noticed, probably you have, adverb actually has in the word what you need to go to find it. To find an adverb, you have to start with the verb. It describes a verb and it answers, Brody, how? Eli, when? And Caden, where? How, when, where? The answers to that will be the adverb. Let's practice these with a sentence. All right, in these sentences, we are going to first find our subject and our verb. Do that with me. Read the sentence out loud and ask the questions. Grandma gently picks small flowers. Who picks small flowers? Grandma. Are you saying them with me, Ella? What is being said about Grandma? Grandma picks. All right, I have my subject, which we know is always a noun, and my verb. Let's stop there. Are there any other nouns in this sentence? We know a noun is a person, place, or thing like grandma. Can you spot another noun in there, Esther? What's another thing in that sentence? Flowers is another thing. And that is all of my nouns. So now that I've got my verb and I've got all my nouns, I can go and find the adjectives and adverbs. Let's start with adjectives. An adjective modifies a noun or a pronoun. So I'm going to find my two nouns. I've got flowers and grandma. And then I'm going to ask what kind, which one, how many. So let's start with grandma. Is there any word in this sentence that tells me what kind of grandma? Which grandma? How many grandma? No, so grandma has no adjectives even though she's a noun. Let's use our other noun now. Flowers. Use your questions. What kind of flowers? Did you find it? What kind of flowers were they, Lindsay? They were small. That's my adjective. Small flowers. And so small is describing flowers. Now we've done both of our nouns, so we found our only adjective. Let's find our adverb. To find the adverb, we have to go to a verb. Well, here's my verb. I've underlined it twice like I always do. I find my verb and then I ask my adverb questions. Picks how? Did you spot a word that tells how they picked them? Or how grandma picks them? How did she pick them? Gently. She picked them gently. That is my adverb. And it has the telltale sign, the ly, on the end of an adverb to help us find it. Okay, so now you know when you have a sentence how to pick it apart. We're going to do two more for practice. If you have your whiteboard, I'd like for you to pause the video and write down this second sentence, the tiny buds opened yesterday. Pause the video and write that down on your whiteboard. All right, here we go. Read it from your whiteboard with me and ask the questions. The tiny buds opened yesterday. What opened yesterday? Buds. What is being said about buds? Buds opened. Hopefully you're doing the same thing on your whiteboard that I'm doing on mine. Now that we've found our subject, which is a noun, and our verb, let's see if there's any other nouns in this sentence. Are there any other persons, places, or things in this sentence? No. That's it. We have one noun and one verb. So let's go ahead and find our adjective. To find the adjective, we go, ask, get. Where do we go? To the noun. So go to your noun, buds, and ask the adjective questions. What kind of buds? What kind of buds were they? They were tiny. So above tiny, write ADJ for adjective. Now, if you were doing this on your Google Docs, I would probably have you choose a certain color to do your adjectives. Okay? So there's our adjective, and since that's my only noun, that's going to be my only adjective. There is an article adjective. Did you spot the article adjective, Noah? The article adjectives are the teeny tiny adjectives, a and the. A and the. So this is actually another adjective, but it's an article adjective. So I'm going to leave that one for now. Now I'm ready to find my adverb. To find my adverb, I go to my verb. So here's my verb underlined twice, and I ask my adverb questions. Opened how? Does it tell how they opened? No. Opened when? Is there a word in there that tells me when it opened? Chelsea? It opened yesterday. So I would put ADV for adverb above yesterday. And now I've identified every single word in this sentence. That's how far you've come. You can do almost every word in any sentence now. Let's try the last one together. Pause the video and write down this sentence on your whiteboard. The big boys paddled the canoe furiously. All right, you read it off of your whiteboard, and I will read it off of mine. The big boys paddled the canoe furiously. Who paddled the canoe furiously? The boys did. That's my subject. Underline it once. What is being said about boys? Boys paddled. You got it. That's what they did. So I've got my subject, which I know is a noun, and I have my verb. Are there any other nouns, persons, places, or things in this sentence? Oh, did you find another thing? Yes, canoe is a thing. So underline canoe. There aren't any other things in this sentence. So now we can start by finding our adjectives. To find the adjectives, we go to the noun. So let's start with boys. It's our first noun, and let's ask our adjective questions. What kind of boys? Big boys. So that's an adjective right there. And what is the over here, Jaden? An article adjective, a teeny tiny adjective. So if you want to put another adjective above that, you can. But we're not looking for the article adjectives this time. Okay, where's our other noun? Canoe. Let's see if it has an adjective. What kind of canoe? Does it tell us? No. Which canoe? No. How many canoes? Nope. If you were to rewrite this sentence, you could add in words to answer those questions and make more adjectives, but they're not here. What is the, though? Another article adjective. So if you want to, you can call that another adjective. All right, we found our adjectives. Let's go find our adverbs. To find the adverb, we go to the verb and we ask our adverb questions. Paddled how? Yes, they paddled furiously. That's my adverb. And I can see Lindsay saying, and it's got ly at the end, Mrs. Huff. That's a dead giveaway that it's an adverb. We're going to be practicing these kind of things every day before our test so that you get really good at finding your adjectives and your adverbs. But that's not our lesson for today. Let's do today's lesson. Alrighty, we're ready for lesson 125. And this is having to do with comparing using the endings, the suffixes er and est. So when we're comparing two words, whether it's an adjective or an adverb, the rule is the same when we're using short words like large or fast. Those are small words, short words, usually one syllable, and the rule for how to make them comparative is the same for adjectives and adverbs. Let's take a look. For adjectives, it says use the suffix er to compare two things, and est to compare more than two things. Let's look at the adverb one. Adverbs use er to compare two things, use est to compare more than two things. The rule's the same whether you're doing an adjective word or an adverb. Isn't that nice? The same rule. I like that. So let's see what this actually means. An orange is larger than a lemon. My noun is orange, and I'm comparing it to one other thing. I'm comparing it to a lemon. So our rule says we're going to use er if we're only comparing two things. So orange and lemon are being compared, so I used er at the end of large. I wouldn't have said an orange is largest than a lemon. We only use est when there's more than two things. So since my sentence has two things I'm comparing, I'm going to use er on the end of the word large. I would not say an orange is large than a lemon. I want to say larger than a lemon. That's why we put the er on there. Let's try it when there's more than two. The grapefruit is the largest citrus fruit of all. Here I'm comparing a grapefruit, that's one thing, but I'm comparing it to every other citrus fruit that there is. That's a lot more than two. So I can't just use er. That's what I use when there's just two. Since there's more than two, I'm going to use est on the end of large. The grapefruit is the largest citrus fruit of all. Now, think about this if I tried er. The grapefruit is the larger citrus fruit of all. Because I'm comparing it to all the other citrus fruits, that's more than two, so I have to use est. Let's look at this with adverbs. These have been adjectives, larger and largest, describe a noun, the larger orange, and the largest is the grapefruit. But now we can do the same thing with adverbs when they're describing verbs. Nikki ran faster than Calvin. I'm comparing two things, two people, Nikki and Calvin. So I'm going to use er because we use er to compare two things. That's why they didn't say Nikki ran fastest than Calvin. They said Nikki ran faster than Calvin because they're comparing two things. What happens here? Jorge ran the fastest of them all. Here we're comparing Jorge, that's one, with all, everyone that ran. That's a lot more than two. So Jorge ran the fastest of them all. So if we have just two things being compared, what do we use? Er. And if there's more than two, we use est. Let's take a look at some of the ways this changes the spelling. So when we change the suffix, you've already learned this before, sometimes we have to adjust our spelling. Let's take the word heavy. It's a comparative word. I could say, he is heavier than that boulder, or she is the heaviest lifter of all. So I can use heavy, change the suffix, and it can become a comparative word. But when we change it, sometimes the spelling changes because this ends in a Y with a consonant before it. And you guys learned the rule that to change that, we have to change the Y to a, I can hear you saying it, an I, and then add our comparative for two things, which is er, heavier. Now what about when we go to heaviest? Same thing, it's a suffix. So I do H-E-A-V, but instead I change the Y to a I and add, what is my suffix for more than two things? E-S-T. Okay, let's try this one. This one is the word strange, and it ends in a silent E. If it ends in a silent E, what do? We drop the E and add the suffix that begins with E. So strange, but I'm not going to put the E down. I've taken the E off. Now I'm going to add my suffix for comparing two things, er, stranger. And when I get to more than two things, same rule applies. I drop the E. Now it looks like strang. And then I add my suffix for more than two things, E-S-T, strangest. What about when we have a short vowel sound with a consonant? This one has one short vowel sound, I, big. If you can remember, we double the consonant and then add our comparative ER. And same thing with biggest. We take big and we double the consonant and then add the EST. Remember these rules? Now sometimes you don't have to do a thing. The word cool, does it end in Y? No. Does it have a silent E at the end? No. Does it have a short vowel sound and then a consonant? No. Ooh, made with two O's, is not a short vowel sound. So we're going to just do cool, just as it is, and then add ER. And cool, just as it is, and then EST. So mind those rules. They're the same rules you've had before when you're actually creating new comparative words. Heavy, heavier, heaviest. Strange, stranger, strangest. Say these with me. Big, bigger, biggest. Cool, cooler, coolest. Now let's figure out using a sentence which is the correct comparative adjective or adverb. The red racer snake moves faster or fastest of any desert snake. First thing to ask is, how many things are being compared here? We know we have one snake here, the red racer snake. That's one. How many other things are being compared with it? Is there just one other thing, or are there more than one other things? This says of any desert snake. I suppose there's probably way more than just one other desert snake. Yeah, so this is going to be comparing more than two things, our red racer snake and any other desert snake. So would I say faster or fastest? You would say fastest because we're comparing more than two. The red racer snake moves fastest of any desert snake. Let's try this one. The temperature in desert regions is hotter or hottest than in mountain regions. How many things are being compared here? Write down on your whiteboard if you still have it. How many things do you think are being compared? Is it two things or more than two? Well, we have the temperature in desert regions and we have the temperature in mountain regions. That's two things, just two different regions, desert regions and mountain regions. So I'm going to be comparing two things using ER. Therefore, it's hotter. The temperature in desert regions is hotter than in mountain regions. Let's try this one. The cactus is a sturdier or sturdiest plant than a pine tree because it stores water. How many things are being compared in this sentence? Write down on your whiteboard, is it two things or more than two things? The cactus is a sturdier or sturdiest plant than a pine tree because it stores water. We're comparing our cactus, that's one thing, to what? A pine tree. That's one other thing. So we have two things. If we only have two, we have to use ER. The cactus is a sturdier plant than a pine tree because it stores water. In these sentences, they've given us an adjective or an adverb at the end of the sentence that we get to decide what suffix it goes on the end based on our sentence. So you're either going to write louder in the blank or loudest in the blank. Let's see what it calls for. A dingo is a blank desert animal than an armadillo lizard. Okay, same question. How many things are being compared here? Write down on your whiteboard. Are there two things or more than two things? A dingo is a blank desert animal than an armadillo lizard. We have a dingo, that's one thing, and we have an armadillo lizard. That's only two things. Don't be confused. There are animals that are armadillos and there are animals that are lizards. But this is a special kind of lizard called the armadillo lizard. It's only one thing. So we have one thing plus one thing, that's two things total. So what ending am I going to put on loud? If I have two things, it has to have ER. So louder. A dingo is a louder desert animal than an armadillo lizard. That's right. Here's my adjective, fast, or it could be an adverb in this case. Fast could be used as an adjective or an adverb depending on where you put it in the sentence. And we have to decide if it's going to be faster or fastest. The roadrunner runs the blank of any bird in the desert. Same question. How many things are being compared here? Write down on your whiteboard. Just 2 things or more than 2 things? Audrey, what did you write down? Let's see. Roadrunner, that's 1. And the other thing it's being compared to is any bird in the desert. You suppose there's more than 1 bird? Any bird in the desert, that could be hundreds. So it's way more than 2 for sure. So if it's more than 2, we use EST. And how would I spell that? F-A-S-T. There's no special rules for that one, so we just add EST. The roadrunner runs the fastest of any bird in the desert. And that's how you do today's work. Go to your Google Docs now and do lesson 125.